pretty simple visually. We might put a pixel texture on the back of them, but okay. Disabled. So disabled is going to be this one here, and I think disabled is going to be like quite dark. Okay. And so we've put the border on hover, and then when we've got a pressed icon, we just where was it? We want to add some content margin to make the icon a little bit smaller. Okay, so it's sort of raising up when we hover over it, and then when we click it, oops. When we click it, it's sort of pushing down, and that content margin is pushing the icon inside a little bit small, right? Cool. Now I don't really like this clock scene here. So let's open up a sprite and see if we can edit that background a little bit. So this white area in the middle, I think, is just kind of pointless. Unless we make it all white. Put this over here. So we could tint this this background as the weapons power up, but I think it's probably fine. Maybe make that a little bit wider. Okay, so it's going to feel like that button is powering up. And then one thing we also need to do is we need to put a content margin around that disabled state. Right? So you'll see that this needs a content margin, and I think putting it in at about adding a big content margin is going to make that icon like tiny. And I think that's kind of what we want. So that's going to allow that button to slowly power up over time with a nice clean texture. Right? And you can see that little X is a lot smaller. And I kind of feel like we need to keep those borders. Otherwise it's going to look a little odd.
Phase 2.
Okay, and I think this needs to start at value 0. Otherwise we get a blink of activity as it loads up. Okay, so let's just make sure that our other button styles have a small border. So we really don't need any detail when we don't have a rounded corner. So alternatively, I was thinking maybe we could remove some of the borders on either side, but I think that might be a little weird. We could reduce the margin. Not really, no. Cool. And maybe on that press state, just adding a little bit more border as well. Okay, so that's just gonna have a subtler effect as the players are, pushing the buttons, but we can still visualize who's pushing what. And I've kept the colors and the icons as simple as possible, black and white, because I'm being quite conservative with how much detail is going into the screen, considering we've got on a mobile device it's probably going to be almost like that, right? Obviously this viewport will update the resolution. In fact, we probably should do that as well. Okay, cool. So that was oh yeah, I'll probably add some hint of colors at a later date. Maybe even have separate red and green for each player. Okay, so those controls are odd. So that should be a 1-to-1 anchor. That should be 0-to-0. Actually, no. No, we don't need that. Okay. So I'm keeping everything grayscale where I can. Until I figure out, because I'm going to do a whole color scheme system towards the end, and I just want to get the relative darkness, and I want to, basically I'll be doing the design almost in grayscale, and then once I get those relative values, then we can figure out how we maybe do a graphic shader. So for instance, you can do chromatic aberration shader. this sort of effect, right? Where you have like a pixelized screen that has a chromatic aberration. Chromatic, is it aberration? Double R. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about long term for the graphics. Like pixelized aberration, a bit like that, like a CRT, old school screen. Make it feel a bit like an old arcade machine. That's quite cool, isn't it? Wow. Or like that. Wow, that's cool as well. Doing a dot matrix with chromatic aberration. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so I think the next thing I'd like to do is figure out a way to get our camera to be relative to the player's velocity. So I guess that's, oh yeah, we want to resize as well. So let's grab this and let's call this resize viewports. So it seems like there is a little bit of a bug that the viewport container doesn't seem to automatically resize the viewports within it. So we just need to manually do this on ready, and then also we want to connect our which signal? I guess we could do screen split dot connect and whenever the screen split node is resized, then we want to handle it with ourself, and we'll just say resize viewports. Right? So let's give that a try, and that should mean that when we resize, we can test how this will look on lower resolutions. So you can see that's resizing the viewport resolution as well. Is it? Yeah. Kind of. I don't know if it is actually. What are you complaining about? Connect parameter P to object is null. Huh.